My daughter's dorm room is 1.1 miles from our front door, but it feels like a world away. When Rilla was born, I was a washed-up musician with an early midlife crisis. We were about the same age mentally, despite the 30-year age gap. And my wife, her mother, Angela, supported the two of us, both financially and emotionally, as we tried to figure things out. She, basic motor skills. Me, what do I want to do with the rest of my life? And actually, it was that shared love of Angela that first brought us together, and we discovered we actually had a lot of things in common, like a mutual love of Sesame Street, and walks in the park, and throwing stuffed animals up into the air and catching them. I started out as a stay-at-home dad out of necessity. I stayed one because I cherished each moment. And after a while, I started touring down tours and shows because I didn't want to be away from home. And I stopped going to the studio to make the next album because I preferred hanging out with a toddler at 7 a.m. than musicians at 2 a.m. Musicians are the worst, no offense. That feeling has never gone away. Rilla was a restart for me, not a second chance, but kind of a second chance. I left my music career. I went back to college and got my degree. I stopped smoking. I stopped drinking as much. I found a new career, not because of Rilla, but kind of because of Rilla. It was my time with her and the hours spent in libraries that turned me on to being a public librarian. Rilla has best friend energy. She always has. She's kind. She's a great listener. She's funny. She's empathetic. She has a killer sense of humor. Recently, she wrote a skit about being Eliza Doolittle singing "I Could Have Danced All Night" while slowly turning into a werewolf. I would do it for you, but I don't have time. But it's really funny. And I'm not the only one that feels this way, so I asked my wife and our youngest daughter what they would talk about on the subject of holding on, and they both separately said, Rilla going to college. And it's not like this was a surprise. We always knew Rilla was going to go to college. Her mom is a professor. I see a couple of her colleagues here. Don't tell her, I'm telling this story. But that was future Rob's problem, right? So present day Rob really enjoyed Rilla at home, and for over 6,750 days, present day Rob was really happy. But future Rob is persistent, and he gets closer and closer until one day, future Rob becomes present day Rob. We spent Rilla's last morning at home just counting down the minutes until she could move into her dorm, talking, laughing, looking through old photo albums and watching videos. And then it was time. Not time to leave. First, we had to play chess. Chess is a core part of Rilla's and my relationship. She learned how to play when she was in elementary school, and she beat me for the first time in 4th grade, celebrating by running around our neighborhood screaming that she beat her dad in chess. During the pandemic, we started playing every day a best out of 3 series, every day at 4 o'clock. And it was our time just to connect. And even as she got into high school and developed a friend group, we still played chess regularly. It was our chance to be together, to share what was going on in each other's lives, to listen to new music, to talk about new ideas, to just be. And so she opened our game like she always does. We're not the best chess players because we only play each other. But she moved her king's pawn to d4 and we were off. I put on her first favorite record, which was Taking the Long Way by the Chicks. And within seconds, we were both sobbing on the floor. And that was when my wife came home from a meeting and found us sitting on the floor playing chess through tears and laughter. And she sat down and she joined us. There's only 2 things I remember about that game. Number 1, I won. I celebrated by running around the neighborhood, top of my lungs. And number 2 is the game didn't last very long at all. It was far too short. And so We drove the 1.1 miles, I've measured multiple times, from our front door to her dorm room. And despite my best efforts, we were there in no time. And as we pulled up, the students at the college, you can figure out what college it was, they ran out saying, "Hey, welcome to this college, and what's your name? What dorm are you in? What's your room number?" And within seconds, they had taken all of our daughter's things out of our car, and then they took our daughter out of our car, and she was gone. So Angela and I parked the car, and we slowly walked to the dorm, holding back the tears. And as we got onto her floor, there was Rilla just holding court, having already befriended half the kids in the dorm. And we stood there awkwardly, knowing that we didn't really need to be there anymore, but we also really didn't want to leave. And I'm not gonna lie, it was really hard, so AJ, get ready. 15 years from now, it sucks. And the first month was really, the first 2 months were really, the first semester was really, really difficult. But I can also say that it's been better than I had hoped. Certainly better than I had anticipated. My wife and my youngest daughter, we found a new normal. We filled the space that was gone. And Rilla is living her best life. She is thriving. She is growing into this incredible woman, emotionally and intellectually and spiritually. And I still see her all the time. She stops by my library to say hi. We eat lunch every week together. She comes home for Great British Bake Off and the occasional Cincinnati Reds game. Last week we hosted her and about 20 of her friends for a big chili dinner. I learned a valuable lesson about holding on and letting go. I mean, present day Rob is really happy, but I hope he remembers this lesson a year and a half from now when my youngest daughter has to travel the 1.1 miles to campus. But that's future Rob's problem. So, thanks.